Hi, this is Thomas Bjelland, and thank you for viewing my Art of Tea video. It was a lot of fun to put together. It's based on a forthcoming book of the same name, The Art of Tea, which is an overview of about 30 years of being an artist and graphic designer specializing in screenprint work. I've been an artist since I was a young boy growing up in Southern California. Grew up in Long Beach, close to the beach, great place to grow up. Educational systems are really good. It was just a suburban neighborhood that was so quintessential Southern California. Long Beach was the second largest suburb in the United States after Lakewood, right next door, due to the burgeoning aircraft industry and people there. Back then you could get a great job just having any type of skills. All my friends lived in houses in the neighborhood. So anyways, back in those days, we didn't have all that electronic gadgetry and fun. And so being a creative guy, I was just an artist since a little guy, as I mentioned, and I would just go in my room and just draw pictures to entertain myself. And always loved that, and just would do that whenever. My mom said that I used to draw, like when I was even little, lay on the living room floor and draw crayon pictures on the bottom of the coffee table in the living room and then sign my name Mott backwards. So as mentioned, just the creative artist thing has just been a really big part of my life. And also surfing. So in that video, yes, all those pictures are me surfing around the world and locally. Southern California was such a great place also for the surf to grow up and enjoy. And to combine those two lifelong passions, it's actually, as a surf artist, I started a year before I actually got my first surfboard at age 10, which would be about 1969. My next door neighbor, Alan Thompson, Poppy, he gave me a stack of his used surfer magazines. Back then they were just half in black and white and half in color. And already being an athlete, I was in Little League and Gray Y and all that stuff. And to see the pictures of surfers 1969, they had long hair and they were athletic and there was just the beauty of the ocean and the waves. And so I would sit in my room, as mentioned, I would draw the pictures. And then a year later at age 10, I got my first surfboard. I was a hand-me-down from my older brother, Tim, and caught my first wave at Crabs and Seal Beach. So kind of both lifelong passions. And as things went along, school, college, it took me about 7 years to actually get all the way through college because I took off semesters here and there for travel and adventure and romance. But part of it was like to go to Hawaii. A great friend of mine, Scott McIntosh, we took a trip in 1980 and spent 3 months on the North Shore of Oahu. I was 19 years old. And back then it was just country. It was so beautiful. I think we were at the Keiki Hale and out near Haleiwa. And I think back then we rented a whole big bungalow with 2 bedrooms for, I think it was $300 a month. So it's probably like at least that much a night now or more, but such a wonderful trip to be able to go and surf and, just be that stoked. And, you had to be in good shape, but you never knew it back then. It was just so much fun. So anyways, getting through college, I went up to LA Trade Tech for 2 years finally to a graphic design school to kind of wrap things up. I had already met my future wife and wanted to get on with my career. And so I finished the graphic design course and got hired by a studio. I worked as a regular graphic designer for 10 years. This was before the Mac even came out. I was doing drawing boards and stuff, so that's how old I am. But anyways, in the studio, I had a great friend, Mike Voorhees, who is a photographer, and we both started our careers out at the same time. So we shared a studio. I learned a lot about photography and did all kinds of graphic design. So great studio, Todd Hoover, Michael Gutson, the Bjorken brothers, Stephen Carl, some really talented people right in Irvine. And so that kind of came to its end after about 10 years. And I moved to another studio, McElroy Designs, in Newport Beach, where this was kind of before the Mac came out, and companies didn't all have in-house art departments. So Mac was great. McElroy Tom, of the brothers McElroy, Joe Mac, etc. He was great friends with DK and also Wooly from Volcom. So he had both of their accounts. He was helping them do the designs. So working there, I got the Quiksilver account. So I designed all the ads and posters and a lot of stuff for a little over a year and a half. And that was great. You know, I've just learned all types of all-around graphic design stuff, but I still had that artistic flame, which is, those two things are a little bit different. Graphic design and artwork. Artist is kind of something that you have a talent for, and you can do what you can do, produce what you can, and it's a lot of fun. And graphic design is a little bit different because you have to solve problems and you kind of use your talent in a way that you also have to have intellect. And it kind of really exposes how sophisticated a person is, really. When you see, like, some artists can do great work, and then you see, try set some type, and it's like, that didn't kind of work out. So anyways, what I mean to say is that I had an interest in design. Even while I was growing up, drawing the magazines, pictures on my desk, I would copy the surf logos and stuff. So I already had both of those interests, and fortunately I was kind of versatile. I could kind of do both. So then I decided, well, I have all this artistic creative talent, and the surf industry is booming. I'm right in Orange County. I moved to Costa Mesa as an adult and lived most of my adult life here. And so I met with the guys at Quiksilver, and they said, hey, do you have any artwork that would be good for t-shirts? And I had a couple of slides of work that I had done at Long Beach City College, and then in my room with just artwork. And along the way, I didn't really realize how good they are. I would just discard them or give them away or whatever. And fortunately, I had a couple of slides, and I go, well, I did these 20 years ago in my bedroom. And he goes, oh, those are cool, Add some logos on. So I scanned them in, added the logos on the Mac, the borders, turned them in, and they were, well, here's $1,000, here's 500 times 2. So it was from day one, I really didn't realize that doing artwork at a young age was, kind of work. Work was being a busboy at the Mexican restaurant, or working at the Lakewood Nursery. I worked at a nursery for 7 years, all through college, all through those college years, weekends and summers. And so that was a great beginning for me getting the Quiksilver connection, because it was not around 1995, and it lasted for about 10 years. And Quiksilver at the time was the marquee surf company. They started in Australia, but they had the office right here in Costa Mesa. And it was just awesome to be able to produce work. Every season would be every 3 months, and so you would do I would do probably 4 or 5 designs for them and turn them in, do it every season. And the reason that I included all the surfing background is that was what it really enabled me to have a lot of the success, because I already knew what the content for the artwork should be, like what it should really kind of convey. Just being a lifelong surfer, it's just innate. So it was really a fun time. I got to, as I say, they were the most marquee company, and it would be every 3 months. I'd do them, I'd turn them in at the office. Get a little package in the mail a couple of weeks, month later. Oh, here's your samples, and here's the catalog that they came out in. The reps want more. Whatever you're drinking, smoking, whatever you're doing, do more of them. And so it was 10 years of that. Every season you got to do like 3 or 4 new pieces. And so it was really a time when, like I said, I'd worked for 10 years before I started my own company, my own design studio. So it was a lot of fun just to have that sort of success where, you're on your own boss, and you're a surfer, you're working for the marquee company that there is. and so rewarding. It was really a great time. And then that kind of came to an end. Quiksilver went younger with the brand after Volcom came out. They kind of separated the Quiksilver Waterman, which is a great line that I love. And my work was so associated with the older Quiksilver, it didn't quite fit in with the younger thing, which is, that's the way things are. You kind of can't fake things. You got to do, what you can do. So it ended up that a couple guys, Pat Fraley, went over to the Honolua company, which was owned by Billabong, and I got the same thing going with them for about 6 years. It was every season you're doing new work, and since I had all those trips in my college days, and I continued to go to Hawaii on vacation, like I mentioned, my friend Mike, he had a house on the North Shore. So I would trade him work, and we would go and stay in a week or two in the fall. And so since I had that real connection with Hawaii, the Honolua brand, it was the same thing. I knew the content, and it was just so fun to try so many different art styles. Like, oh, am I going to do woodcut next, or this or that? All types of different design styles. And that was also a fun learning area where you got to kind of work. I worked with the salesmen and the people in the company. You would get some feedback on what's selling. And so that was a part where, in Quiksilver, it was like, oh, what do you got that's cool and it's good? And it was pretty wild and pretty great. And then Honolua, I kind of toned in on, okay, it's a men's line. They like, you figured out they like a fairly simple design, but you want that little bit of hand-drawn work feel to it, so it feels like the islands, You want to take a little piece of your vacation home when you buy a shirt. And so that went really well for another 6 years, and it was always a lot of fun. Like, things would be tough. You're doing your own business. You have your high points and your beat downs and stuff, and I'd see a guy that would be wearing one of those Honolua shirts, and the print's all cracked and the shirt's kind of getting faded, and it's his favorite t-shirt. And I go, that was fun to do, man. It was really a good, fun thing to do. And he likes it. And it's like, a little pick me up. And, but the one thing that I really didn't realize at the time during that whole 16-year stretch, and particularly with Quiksilver, as I mentioned, they were the marquee company, was that they were a global brand. And I didn't realize that my artwork, besides going to US, Hawaii, all over the place around here, they were also selling it in Australia and Europe and Japan, Bali, New Zealand, everywhere that Quiksilver had shops, they were sending it to. So I really didn't realize it had that much global dissemination. So I thought about that, and I said, it's possible during that 10 years that I had the most globally disseminated surf artwork out of kind of anybody in that category. I found out later, like 10 years ago, I went to Australia, and I was a guest artist at a great shop in Burleigh Heads for about 2-3 months. Tank Stream, shout out to Jim and the crew. And when I was there, but this was 10 years ago, so I was a little older, but a little bit younger staff, I realized, wow, there's really a lot of stuff that I've known, just doing this by myself for 20 years. And I could kind of put it into a curriculum. So that's kind of where the Art of Tea is leading to, which will come up next in mastering screenprint design. I'm putting a curriculum course together, which is kind of tied into this whole project. And one of the things that one of the younger guys said there, Nelson, brother, and he goes, oh, I've, as I said, being global, he goes, oh, I've been following your artwork for 10 years. And it was like, I had no idea, because like I said, I wasn't really sure of it. But then later, after that, in my later 5-10 years or so, I've had people that I've met from Europe. Oh, I've known that artwork too. I saw that over there. So I didn't really understand how globally it was out there. And so that was another reason that kind of gave me the impetus, that trip, and the realization that, I got something kind of good here that a lot of, I'm going to put it into sort of a junior college and college curriculum, like young artists that already have a little bit of talent and they want to try screen printing, or people that would just enjoy it could, listen to my course, pick up some really fun things, and either kind of go in that way of direction or career, or learn a lot of fun things. And even as I mentioned, I didn't realize that one season I went to Bali, Indonesia, and visited my friend and colleague Ketut Kasi King Kong with his partner Stephen Palmer. They had the Quiksilver and Volcom license over there, and so I went for a surf and R&D trip, one trip, and I walked into his shop, Kuta B in Kuta, and there's a rack of my designs on the thing. So that was the first, kind of, I didn't really put two and two together as far as the global part of the work, because I met him here in Newport Beach through my Japanese friends that I first owned my studio in 10 years in Newport 4. I had a studio right on Newport Boulevard. And so I met those guys here, and so I figured, they probably ordered some from the factory and so forth. So I didn't really realize it was that disseminated. So I think a lot of people will know this if they've been around for a while, and it's fun to see all the work put into one piece together in my book. So I hope that you will enjoy diving into that next. I'll be including some more videos, and until then, I'll catch up with you soon. Thank you.